Hey.
I'm back.
All right, everybody.
Welcome.
Welcome,
We are
welcome
on in.
again to our bi-weekly Battlemaster discussions. I am
Well, not
I am Lyle Rakir, and this is, of course, Sidolphus. Uh, and a couple things I'm going to pop in and out of. I won't be as talkative today as usual because I've got a couple of things I've got to get prepared for this coming Saturday. Which for Falling Fire folks, that's going to be our free RPG day, which is one of our biggest recruiting events of the year. And as usual, we will be at Nerdy Needs. Um, so I won't be doing as much. I'm going to be working on that. But Cid is here and he'll be able to take over.
yeah. I mean, it's going to be a fun class today. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you all for coming out, for our friends out here in the chat with us, as well as the people who are writing our wonderful questions, as well as our friends abroad and domestic. I'm happy to announce the Unnamed Battlemasters podcast is no longer unnamed. I'd like to happily thank you guys for coming out and supporting us throughout the time that we sat there thinking about a name we couldn't really figure out for about, what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? But lo and behold, we now have the first official episode of the War Table, where knowing is half the battle. So, for those of you who haven't been on before or are first-time listeners, this is going to be a podcast that focuses on Amtgard battle gaming, its tactics, its eccentricities, some of the things that might be a little bit hard for a new player kind of getting into the game, and us trying to both break it down, explain it, and then try to get into the nitty-gritty to get you into that area. So there will be certain lingo and terminology that is used that might be a little bit hard to kind of wrap your head around. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Please leave them in the side chat of the Discord if you have any. And we'll do our best to try and make sure that transition and that lingo kind of makes a little bit more sense or rectify it for future. With that in mind, today's episode is going to be focusing on enchantments. A relatively staple part of the Amtgard battle gaming community. We are going to be talking about this as part of a larger series where we go over enchantments of the various caster and martial side of the game. Today's episode will be focusing on wizard and druid particularly. And alongside of us, me and Lyle decided to reach out to some of the more prominent wizards and or druids within our own kingdom, as well as a guest speaker from outside the kingdom of Neverwinter. Let's start off with our Paragon Wizard, Rook. Please introduce yourself to the party.
Hi, my name is Rook. I've been playing Amtgard for the better part of 3.5, almost 4 years now. And first class I started playing was Wizard. I've spent a lot of time playing it. Played it in the past couple battle game tourneys. My team got first place in the first one, and unfortunately the second one was unfinished. But we're looking to finish those last couple rounds at this upcoming coronation. But yeah, I mean that's a little bit about me. I just love this game, love playing Wizard, and love fighting.
We love having you on here as usual, Rook. Joining you today, another Paragon Wizard, but more importantly for the sake of the conversation here, our Paragon Druid, Ezuron. Ezuron, could you introduce yourself to the class?
Hello, everybody. I'm Ezuron. I've been playing Amtgard for off and on for like 8-ish years. Like you said, I'm Paragon Wizard, Paragon Druid. Both of those are like probably my two favorite classes, so I've spent a lot of time playing them. And I like to help people with spell list crafting and all that stuff when it comes to those classes. So yeah.
Well, we're welcome to have you guys here. And before we go any further as well, a small introduction to one of our friends of the channel and probably one of the bigger inspirations for this, Mr. Kalahan Ridgeborn from Rising Winds. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello there. Yes, I am Kalahan Ridgeborn, almost a Battlemaster, always a wizard. I'm just super stoked to be here. I love talking about Wizard in every one of its facets and battle gaming in general. So I'm really excited to be a guest on the show tonight. Thanks for having me.
Yep, of course. I appreciate having you here. Just for those of you guys who don't know, Callahan runs a very successful podcast out of Rising Winds where he talks to prominent battle gamers, battle knights, battle masters, as well as their paragons, and kind of goes over the finer points of playing those classes. His channel will be plugged in the into the annotated sections of the actual video. So if you guys would like to, please give him a look. He's a great channel. It's a great thing to watch while you're driving to work or enjoying yourself while playing a video game. So without further ado, enchantments. So enchantments in the actual wider scheme of Amtgard function as a means to alleviate or, I guess, make a already rather complex game 100 times more complex. Now, what I mean by that is that the idea of having to deal with people swinging sticks, shooting arrows, throwing spell balls, and cants being thrown all over the place is one thing. Having to deal with a guy who is running at you, speaking an entire paragraph's worth of stuff that doesn't really make any sense to you is a completely different issue altogether. Enchantments are a very, very necessary part of the game, but it is one that scares a lot of players off. It is very much a kind of a daunting task to kind of go through. So today we're going to be going over some of the more prominent classes that use them. We're going to break them down, and we're going to kind of go over the finer points of how to use them, their interactions, etc. So, without further ado, the basic idea of an enchantment is normally that it is some form of utility, offensive or defensive, that is normally worn, slung either across a wrist, on your weapon, on your sash, anything that it could be visible, as a means to denote that the enchantment is on you. They tend to come in one of three colors: white, red, or yellow. And it'll vary depending on the actual enchant itself. So, traditionally, if you see players who are walking towards you with some assortment of red, white, or yellow strips, so it's safe to say that they have those kinds of or they have an enchantment on them. So as we go on, we kind of explain the basic idea. What are the kinds of things that we're going to see with an enchant, and what is like the kind of etiquette we kind of look at when it comes to them? Traditionally, for enchantments, as a matter of ROP, you're normally supposed to, if you are an enchanted player, to announce your enchants as you enter engagement range with the opposing force. So you'll normally see a lot of players will state Flame Blade, Attune, etc., 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 or any other number of enchantments that they may have, or immunities that they may have. Now, mind you, we're not going to talk about class immunities and how that kind of bakes in, but the general idea is that when you are playing and using enchants or facing against people with enchants, the first rule of engagement should be to figure out what you are dealing with by asking what your opponent has. So this could come in the form of saying, Rook, enchantments, question mark. And normally there is a level of obligation they tell you.
A great smile.
A great smile, a sunny disposition, and imbue weapon. Oh, who knew? The scary one. But yeah, traditionally, as you enter engagement range, and this is a common courtesy that all players should extend to their opponents, is that when you are dealing with and fighting people, you should be telling them the enchantments you have. Be reasonable about it. You don't have to say it at every single moment that you are fighting, but be reasonable in the amount of times that you state it. Make sure that everybody has a clear understanding of what is going on, and make sure that when you're operating with enchants, that the clarity as well as the utility of what is going on is first and foremost. What I mean by that is that if you are the one giving an enchantment, that you are being very forthcoming and explaining exactly what those enchantments do. So what I mean by that is that let's say I am a druid and I give a player Gift of Air. Stating those three words together mean absolutely nothing to the layman. What does Gift of Air mean? What does Gift of Air do? What are the kind of restrictions I have to worry about? As a person who gives those enchantments out, it is your job to not only make sure that your friends have a basic understanding of what's going on, but make sure that they're being used properly. So like, for instance, if I give Gift of Air to a person who is wielding a sword and a shield, I should let them know and tell them, hey, bud, you can't wield equipment while having Gift of Air on. So please keep that in mind. Similar ideas would end up being like interactions with armor and magic armor, how they don't interact with each other. You choose one or the other. You don't get both. So one of those things that you're just going to need to really be reticent about, and it's one of the bigger barriers of entry for the class or for the art, the type of play. so kind of the way I wanted to say it, is that understanding that you need to be both well-read in the rule book, as well as being able to be very clear with what you're saying to your teammates, so everybody has a basic understanding of what's going on. So, with that basic, extremely 50,000 foot understanding of what an enchantment is, how to use it, and how they normally are associated with players on the battlefield, let's go on and talk about them class-wise. We're going to start with Wizard, because Wizard tend to have a lot less than Druid. So the first one we're going to talk about, and we're going to, I guess, have our three wizards here kind of go at it, is going to be Vampirism. So what are thoughts on the enchantment? How do you guys normally go about explaining it? Basic ideas of when you use it. What do you guys think? We'll start with Ezuron.
Vampirism, honestly, I don't really come across a lot of people that really tend to want to take this enchantment. It's, as a wizard, people don't usually expect you to have enchantments. So I think, like, before we started recording, I think Kalahan was saying something about like trying to make it clear to people, like, hey, I have enchantments as a wizard, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Rook, what do you think about vampirism?
I feel like vampirism is just a generally really weak enchant, and especially since you're sacrificing your 4th level spell slot. Well, a 4th level spell slot, assuming you're not taking persistent, which is also really expensive for wizards. So you've got
Right.
2 persistence, you've got a limited number of spell slots from 4th and above, which you could just be taking any other spell or any other magic ball. I just don't find a lot of value in vampirism. While immune to death is good if you're going against a lot of assassins, my field doesn't have that many assassins to begin with. So turning one of your paladins or anti-paladins into a barbarian with immune to death just doesn't have a lot of value to me, and I personally don't even take vampirism. I find it to kind of be a waste of a spell slot. Yeah, but
Yeah, I agree.
I think on the wizard spell list, this is probably the weakest enchant, and I would just dodge this as best as possible.
Which is unfortunate because it's cool, you know, like from
Oh,
a
I mean, the name
from an
sounds
RP.
awesome.
Yeah, right. From an RP perspective, like, oh, I'm turning this dude into a vampire, but it's like at the end of the day, it's just like,
I mean, it's as
really,
close as it's as close to a vampire enchant as it gets, because this one sucks.
yeah.
The biggest problem with vampirism is that it bestows arguably one of the weakest abilities in the game. Adrenaline lets you recover a wound if you've been wounded on a kill trigger.
Mhm.
So for vampirism to work, you necessarily need to be a martial class, right? You need to be something that is going to be doing killing with a stick, right? Immunity to death is so easy to get right now with extend immunities from Paladin that's basically just flavor text. And so adrenaline by itself, like if you're putting this on a player wearing armor, then it sucks because their armor has to be gone before it can be useful as an enchantment. So a enchantment that doesn't bestow armor is an interesting thing, and I'd like to see that be good, but vampirism just isn't good because adrenaline isn't good. So if adrenaline could be better, then hey, that'd be something worth having, but it's just not.
I think it'd be cool if we replaced adrenaline with like steel life essence. I think it would still give like the same flavor, but then make it useful for more than just like just make it
Healing
useful in
yourself.
general. Yeah.
I mean,
Because
I
you can
would
heal yourself.
even say like I would even say replacing it with momentum. Now that this is an actual ability, like Steel Life is great, but it's also too good for 4th level enchant.
Fair enough.
If it had Steel Life, holy shit, you don't need Void Touched anymore. Which I'm not gonna touch on that yet, but yeah, I think momentum would be amazing, but at that point, wouldn't really be vampirism anymore. I don't know. It's just
Honestly,
I don't like vampirism for the level that it's at. I think if it was a third level spell, it might be more worth taking, but you're also like I think the biggest constraint that taking an enchantment on a wizard has, for me personally, is that you can't be a battle mage. If you're an evoker, and I kind of wanted to touch on this sooner, but um, if you're an evoker, if you're a warlock, you can still take enchants.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if you're a battle mage, verbal wizard, which I would say majority of wizard players are verbal wizards, um, you're you're not allowed to take enchants, which is the biggest reason that wizards don't take enchants.
Yeah, it is a bit of an issue because you're giving up a very heavy price for it, and that's a bit of a that is the price you pay. Now, mind you, there is another enchantment we're going to get to very soon that's going to kind of like make that
Yeah,
calculus feel a little bit more interesting. Before we go any further, just because I forgot to mention this at the start,
yeah,
everything here is being recorded as of June 19th, 2025. So that is
yeah.
prior to the Gathering of Kingdoms vote. So everything here is from 8.6.4 of the SAPI rulebook. Things might change, things might be different. Consult your ROP, consult your rules reps accordingly. The other thing I wanted to make note of was persistent that Rook brought up. Persistent is a meta magic that allows that or that enchant that you've placed upon a player to come back when they respawn, rather than be removed as a result.
Yeah, and digging a little bit deeper into when we're talking about persistent, you get 2 per refresh. That means you are sacrificing 2 fingers of death or 1 sphere of annihilation for I'm sorry, wait, wasn't it
it's 2 points,
I think I
but
just misquoted it. Yeah, sorry, 2 points. It's 2 points for 1 persistent.
Mhm.
Um which again, you're sacrificing 2 fingers of death just for the meta magic, and you could either be taking 2 fingers of death, 1 sphere of annihilation, just for one person to get enchanted. So that enchant has to really be worth your time if you're going to be putting that on someone. Um.
well,
So
it's even
yeah.
more than that because of the prevalence of dispel in the game right now.
Mhm.
Between healer now getting dispel at a rechargeable level, between druid with nat mag, between wizard having dispel naturally rechargeable, if you find someone with a persistent enchantment or even just scout, that's a prime target for dispel. So it's not only an opportunity cost for 6 level points to persist something, I'm also spending an opportunity cost at a lower level for a spell. And then I also have to trust that player is not going to immediately get their enchantment dispelled to make it worth my points. So you're asking for 4 opportunity costs in a row and a faith buy-in to just to start the process of wizard enchanting. And not being a battle mage, going in so heavily on the points, because I think all of the wizard enchantments deserve persistent. Like none of them, well, we'll get to the other ones, but like a good majority of these enchantments really need the persistent to make them worthwhile, I think.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Agreed.
if you don't have it, like, so I'm spending at least 3 points of magic to enchant you. That's a huge opportunity cost on a wizard spell list, especially since wizards are so DPS heavy already. Like that's dead players that are not dead to give you this thing. And are you going to get blown away by a third level spell?
Yep. And a
Yeah.
spell that comes up real often. It's available on 3 out of the 4 casters. One martial class has it for free with well, not for free, but one martial class has it with very, very like large regular intervals. You have another one because if I remember correctly, Monk also now has Sever Spirit, which will
Mhm.
make
Yeah.
that persistent even more endangered. So it's one of those things that what all of us are trying to get at for the aspiring wizard, and I guess for any class that uses enchantments that they give to other people, it's understanding opportunity costs. What am I giving up for putting this on a person, and what is this going to like? How does this affect tempo? how much am I going to get out of this persistent vampirism that I just gave to the guy who's maybe been playing a month? Whereas
Right, and
compared
that's the
with
other thing
like,
is like knowing who you're putting it on is like super important as well, especially for Wizard, because like you said, like, the cost for these for Wizard enchantments is really high to just lose it instantly.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
think we're all on the same page as far as vampirism. Um, let's go on to our next enchant on the list.
Void touch.
Which, yeah, I would call this a direct upgrade from vampirism. Is Void
Yeah.
Touch. This one's going to be a 5th level spell, and we're replacing, like Ezuron was saying earlier, from Adrenaline up to Steal Life. You're getting immunity to Death, Sorcery, and Spirit.
Magical
For
abilities.
me, right? Yeah, I think Void Touch is S tier. Like, this is a spell that
Rook, you forgot the
mean,
best part.
Armor breaking.
oh,
And
sorry,
shadow.
the armor
Yeah.
No,
breaking,
you
yeah,
get
Shadow
Shadow
Step.
Step once per refresh, recharge times 30.
Well,
For
and the
the
unlimited steal lives, which lets you charge that to begin with.
You have
the
not
funny
Um,
the
blacked
funny
out
thing is, for
all.
those of you guys who don't, and I'm sorry for kind of interrupting on it, just for the viewers who don't, like, who think we're just kind of pulling their leg, go to page 36 in the ROP. And Void Touch is a full paragraph. First starting off with giving your melee weapons armor breaking, then a second line giving you both Shadow Step refresh, charge times 30, EX, and an EX Steal Life Unlimited. And then on top of that gravy boat, giving you immutable, borderline immunity to all magical effects from Spirit, Death, and Sorcery.
so
You can
I
still...
want to give a I want to give a quick story time of how I used Void Touch. Uh, we're doing a 4v4 battle game tournament. I was mentioning this before we started recording, and I threw Void Touched on our barbarian, who he had, I think it was only like 2 or 3 points of armor all over him. We With the immune to death, immune to spirit, immune to sorcery, barbarian's already immune to command and immune to subdual. The only thing that he could be affected by is flame, and we gave this guy a second sword. So even if they, excuse me, even if they were to heat his weapon, congratulations, he's got a second weapon. Even if they were to destroy his weapon, congratulations, he still has a second weapon. Almost no magic is affecting him. Now, because barbarian, a lot of their abilities are spirit, it also means that he can't really cast anything on himself, right? He loses out on adrenaline, he loses out on blood and thunder. And because he has steal life, you don't really need adrenaline. And because he has armor, he doesn't really need the blood and thunder. So now it kind of like patches the holes that it creates with this enchantments. And I, it's almost like a non-stop rage. He no longer needs the rage to begin with. Again, this version of the game, we no longer have fight after death. We have rage. Um, there's almost no magic that can affect him other than Flame School, and I don't find a lot of Flame School abilities to really be that much of a threat, other than if we're talking about Fireball, if we're talking about Lightning Bolt, but don't get hit. It's that at that point it's a skill issue.
Oh, lightning.
Call Lightning, yeah.
You
Mm,
find me a
call-
druid that plays Call Lightning, and I'll worry about it.
I know a few of them,
You
mostly
rang.
Yep.
because I'm the Wolfric is the first one to chuck it right at me when he gets the opportunity. But the other thing to keep in mind, especially with that little story, is that unlimited steal life can be used to charge your brutal strike. You've now created an unstoppable cursing machine who
Oh,
can
and
do
then
it through his own abilities and then charge his own brutal strikes. So you've got free silences and free cursing, all for the
there's
low price of a 5th level enchantment spot.
there's
And
also a weird thing that can happen now, where with that Shadow Step once per refresh, recharge times 30. This has only happened once, but I had Void Touched on, and you get charged and you shadow step. And what's the move when someone has shadow step and they have no way out of it? Well,
you track them.
well, if you're not a scout, you stand there and you camp them and you wait till they come out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when they stand there, recharged times 30 their shadow step, and then banish themselves?
You can't banish
They
yourself.
can't. They can't be. Oh no, you can
You're
because if
immune
I
to-
remember, is it the monk banish EX?
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
but
sure
you're
Yes.
immune to the
Monk
Yeah.
Banish is EX.
I have to
Yeah.
double check it, but
It's magical abilities, so EX abilities will still hit you.
so the monk can banish themselves and go
Oh, I
back to base for free after wasting all your time watching them recharge times 30. It's like Sanctuary with more steps.
Yep, their banish is indeed EX. That is comical. Oh my lord.
Void Touch is a spell that if you put on literally anyone with a rechargeable ability, you get value out of. And if you persist it, now you have a persistent problem.
Yep. And even so,
Yes.
we found some success running this at Spring War. Running a Void Touched Assassins, so persistent Void Touch Assassins, where a lot of their big cooldowns are all per lives. It's throw that guy right into the middle, like right past the line's engagement. And since he's got armor breaking, a flow assassin is
Oh.
going to be taking through a whole line by himself.
I mean, it's a direct upgrade from Assassinate.
Correct? Yep.
Well, what's even crazier is with the spy mechanic.
Yep.
Is it spies the archetype that gives them rechargeable in subs?
Yep.
Now they're armor breaking, and that when they kill you and steal your life back, they can just blink again.
Yep. They're blinking. They can shadow step if they need like the moment of reprieve, and then they can just teleport out of it through
So
trickery.
I would say if we're making a tier list, I would put vampirism in a very easy F tier.
Easily.
Void touch
I'll
on the
agree.
opposite end, I would put that in A or S tier. I would probably only limit it to A tier just because that's something that and again this is something that Kalahan mentioned, which I think in perspective kind of he verbalized it better than I could explain what I was feeling with it. Is that you kind of need someone you already know who's going to work with it. You have to have it prepared. Like, hey man, in the next battle game, I want to give you Void Touched. Like, can we work on this? Can I give you this enchantment? Can you prepare for it? And then now it's a worthwhile enchantment, but it's not something that's really easy to just go to a kingdom event, someone you've never met. Hey, you're playing warrior. Let me give you Void Touch. It doesn't have
I
the same
agree.
effect.
Yep.
I would say another thing that limits it to A tier, being immune to release and being cursed, like don't sleep on that. Like you're cursed, you're immune to being released. That's rough. So those ice balls become hard counts.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot to it to keep in mind. So, unfortunately, we do have a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of time to do it. So let's jump to the next one. Ward Self. I personally think that this enchant is kind of ass. For
Yeah.
context, it just
Again.
makes you resistant to or was it? It's pretty much like what is it? Blessing against wounds, kind of, but it also does it for
It's
state.
like a blessing against
It's blessing
wounds
against
for-
harm.
Yeah.
Any like negative spell effect. I mean, I would say it's more valuable against teams with a lot of ranged threats like archers, other wizards, anyone with verbal casters who could threaten you from range. But if it's a martial fighter, all they have to do is swing at you one more time and you're dead. So if someone's that close to you, you're dead. It doesn't matter if you have 15 points of armor. You're still a wizard that is going to get their ass kicked. You just kind of have to accept it at some point.
Now, see, Ward Self is a spell. I wish it was better than it was because there's like if you read any amount of fiction, mage armor is out there. Like that's a thing that people want to be doing. Like Ward Self as a one cost enchantment, max 1 per life. Ooh, protects you from that first arrow hit. That's that becomes amazing. But at a per refresh max 2, it's not going to be relevant enough to matter. Like I get to tank 2 arrow hits or 2 frozens or whatever, it's too expensive for the effect that it gives, and it's not frequent enough for it to be relevant.
Yeah, if it was like had like maybe like the gift of air ability in like a similar capacity, I think that would be a little more helpful. But like it would like
Or if
send
it
you
could
back
stack
to
with Gift of Air,
right.
make it an
Yeah,
EX somehow. I mean, it wouldn't be very flavorful, but just as it sits right now, I would rather have vampirism.
At least I can
Say out
at
loud.
least I could heal myself after the fact.
right.
So
Because
let-
with
I would
vampirism, I get death immunity and not just like a little no.
Just a
I would
light.
say the only time for me that ward self becomes relevant is if you don't have someone else on your team who can give you an enchant like stone skin, like protection from projectiles, and if you're an evoker.
Yep.
Right.
Because at least with elemental barrage, you know, hey, like I'm throwing magic balls. I'm trying to get as many kills as I can. I'm just focused on dealing as much damage on the field or crowd control on the field as I can. Um, but you know, the moment you get that one hit, like someone arms you, you're seriously reducing your
Your capability.
capabilities as a
Mhm.
elemental barrage wizard.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't want to focus too much on that build. I just want to focus on that enchantment. You can't use it with battle mage, and it's just not really worth too much investment.
I will
But yeah,
say, I know one player, who is trying real hard to use it as a counter spell,
hmm
and like they're carrying 2 ward selves and 2 swifts, and they're just hoping to be able to pull it off as a counter spell on something. And I haven't seen them be successful with it yet. Maybe that's the new sleeper deck that we're all missing on, but even as a counter spell, it seems weak.
it's
I can just break con. Why do I need to? I have the actual counterspell answer in most of my
Well,
classes.
Right.
the benefit of using it as a counterspell instead of break concentration requires you to identify who's casting at you.
That's true.
So if you're in a big battle game and you hear your name, my power makes thee frozen, you can just be like, Swift, the power magic defends me, and then you're good. But
you're
that's
wasting
a
a
real
Swift.
specific circumstance. I
And again, so expensive. So
so
expensive.
expensive. It's
Yeah.
not even like
Yep.
If ward self were cheaper, I would definitely consider. Thank you.
Next one up, Contagion. Red strip, 5th level. Bearer's melee weapons are wounds kill, but the bearer is fragile. How are we feeling on this one, gentlemen?
I would consider this more of a B tier. I really like Contagion, and as much as I want to put it in S tier, for the use case I'm about to go over, um, it's it's a more narrow use of imbue weapon. So you get wounds kill and you're fragile. So what does that mean? It means you're probably just gonna throw that on someone who's like a 6-point warrior or maybe a 4-point paladin. And I think it'll probably have more use on a paladin because your major threat is getting wounded. Sorry, hold on.
Yeah, it's
Okay. Your biggest threat is getting wounded, right? And if you put it on someone who has armor, congratulations, you've got 4, maybe 6 points before you finally get killed. I same battle game tourney. I threw persistent contagion on our warrior. He had a pole, he had armor, and he was just eliminating the entire enemy team before any of them could even get within arm's reach of him. Uh, don't sleep on wounds kill. It is a must-have. Better than
Yep.
flame blade.
That's something I'm
I-
going to go over with my stuff.
I feel
Yeah,
like Contagion is slept on a lot. Like when you try to pitch it to someone, you're like, listen, you were wounds kill, but you were fragile. And as soon as they hear you are fragile, a lot of
Yep.
people just nope out of it.
No, thank
And I
you.
feel like a persistent contagion on an assassin would be amazing because, like, assassins already don't want to get hit. If you've got a 2-point assassin out there rolling backlines with the big problem with assassin rolling an entire backline is that their poison is used up on the first whack, right? They kill one guy, and now the rest of these guys they have to actually hit a sufficient number of times. But if you give them contagion, it's just one hit per player at that point. Just wounds kill assassinate all the way down the line as fast as you're able. Who cares how much armor they're wearing? You're just doing your best, and then you come back and you do it again. Like Contagion's an amazing spell, and it's so hard to give out again without the big problem with all wizard enchantments is without pre-planning them, they're almost impossible to use effectively. And if you've got someone who's prepped for Contagion and ready to go, it can be crisp, it can be awesome, but it sometimes can be very difficult to talk a player into taking Contagion because there's a level of trust there. I mean, they're vulnerable to wounding as a kill spell now. They're vulnerable to a bunch of things. So I do think that, putting it on a 6-point warrior would be cool, but sometimes putting it on some more evasive fighters or some skirmishers could be really awesome. I feel like putting it on now this was back before Fight After Death was nerfed, but putting Contagion on a barbarian was insane because
that's
every
funny.
shot was a Fight After Death at that point. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm fragile. Oh no. What terrible thing might happen to you?
Oh, I'm fragile. So are you.
Guess what, everybody? Like that.
I've now inadvertently
Wounds
caused
kill,
my
Fight
own death.
After Death 1.
Oh, that's so nasty.
Oh my god! And sorry to get off track, but now that just makes the running joke just a little bit longer. Of, oh, I have to announce my enchantments and keep counting. Okay, armor breaking, shield crushing, wounds kill 1. Armor breaking, shield crushing, wounds kill 2.
Right.
Like, no, it's still 7 count. It's just I'm a very slow counter.
I'm being very precise for your benefit.
I promise
have
I'm not
time to
taking
run.
advantage. I promise I'm not taking advantage of this for my own tactical needs. So
And that's why we don't have Fight After Death anymore.
Yes,
Rest
that
in
is the
peace,
reason
buddy.
there. That was the problem.
Rest in peace, good buddy. I miss you. The last one up on the wizard train is Promag, Protection from Magic. I'm gonna keep it $150 with you at 6th level, where Persistent is at a real high premium. Promag feels kind of butts. That's just me though, at least from here.
I mean, it's 3 points for Persistent Promag. You're basically giving up again 3 points of 6th level. I just can't really justify it. Again, Wizard as a class just shouldn't be using too many of their enchantments to begin with. I mean, even with all the things we talked about, right? Void Touch and Contagion, like it's just not your role, and I think it's just too much of a reach to dip into your 6th level spells to make 1 person pro mag. As powerful as Protection from Magic is, you also can't really heal yourself as much. You can only heal yourself with EX abilities. And
Cursed
now
and
your
down.
allies can't even really. Yeah, you're cursed, and again, you're protected from all forms of magic. So the only people who can really heal you is going to be like a scout or a monk who have EX heal.
Yep.
Which on an
It's a
armored
no
class
for me.
isn't as big a downside, but really, like you were saying, the problem with Protection from Magic is first off, healers do it better. Healers can get more of them for less spell
Just about to
points.
say that, yeah.
They get more of it for better. They have the archetype that doubles their enchants. Or no, that's that's healer.
Warder.
They get warder, yeah.
Warder.
I've been reading all of these archetypes way too much recently, but yeah, you get that, like, so they can get it for less points, more faster, more better. Paladins already get it. Like, the people that you're going to want to put this on are usually your frontliners, and they are again dispel magnets. If I'm going to drop 3 points of 6th level magic on somebody, that is fully half of my capstone, and it's just going to get blown off by a 3rd level spell.
That's interesting. I like to put it on other wizards, to be honest, because
The Promag.
Yeah, because like one of
Interesting.
the most annoying things is having break con cast on you while you're shouting icy blast at somebody. But now it's like, hey, guess what? It doesn't matter.
Or a frontline or a midline wizard, sure. If you're in the if you're within the bricks, so to speak, I don't think
Yeah.
it's a bad idea. It's just
I mean,
expensive.
look, if we're gonna talk about spells that are being slept on for wizards, you got to try lycanthropy. I'm sorry, you guys don't know what you're talking about until you put immune to
So good.
command and 2 points magic armor on a wizard. Like, you haven't lived.
Yep.
Well, we're gonna
You know
talk
what
about
really
that one
works?
sooner.
Go get Gift of Air and an Extend Immunities command from a paladin. You're
Ugh!
unstoppable.
Ugh!
You are.
That's
Jesus.
crazy.
You want to see me just? You want to see people rolling their eyes and annoyed and frustrated? Like at one point, when I got my 7th order of battle, it was specifically called out to stop giving me pro command and Gift of Air at the same time. Like this is an actual real life problem, and I'm not saying that they nerfed extend immunities because I was a problem, but I certainly contributed. And command immunity is so easy to get. Protection from magic, like we joke about it all the time in the casting community. We joke about, hey, that's a nice armor you got there. Shame it's leg day. That's what
Oh.
protection of magic is for.
Ooh.
You want to use your protection from magic to keep your leg day guy from doing leg day. Surprise, no, it's your leg day. If you're worried about getting break con, go find one of the many ways to get pro command. There's a ton of them out there. They're cheap, they're plentiful, they're renewable resources. And now protection from magic on a wizard is great, but realistically, I'm hit with arrows a lot more than I'm getting hit with magic.
That's
Right?
fair.
Yeah.
And if you're playing
Realistically,
Battle
I'm just
Mage,
not taking this.
yeah, if you're playing Battle Mage and you're not bobbing in and out of range on spells, what do you do?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a
I
whole
I can't even
episode on
tell you
itself.
the last time someone cast break con on me.
I can. It was at our last Kingdom event, and oh boy, was it a lot.
So let's
You got to play with me and Hugel out there.
yeah, they were chucking some pretty good break cons this past weekend. And
Yeah,
Pride
they
was
were.
was very impressive watching folks kind of go at it. So that's all of Wizard covered. We're gonna take a few questions real quick, and then from there we'll move on to Druid. So
Oh, no.
just to keep in mind, Druid's enchantment list is comically long.
Yep.
I think they have almost like 4 to 5 times more enchants than
I think they have
Wizard.
22, I believe. Something like that.
So we'll
Just a measly couple extra.
Well, so just to make sure, because some of those are going to be a lot more useful than others, we're going to kind of consolidate some of them.
Yeah.
Most of them kind of fall within some level of utility, and some of them are so underutilized that it is almost impossible, like on first glance, to even mention them. We will kind of give them, the lip service, but do not expect a full-on conversation on why Gift of Water or Gift of Fire has some level of like relevance comparatively to Flame Blade, Imbue Weapon, etc., etc. Not to say that they're bad spells, but in terms of like tactical utility, there's a lot of weird interactions that you will see in the Druid spell list that some of these spells may not have mentioned. And I mentioned those just because they're the first ones off my head, not because they're the exact examples I was going to bring up. So
I was writing an essay about Gift of Fire.
oh no. Yeah, I was about to receive the most strongly worded DM. How dare you talk about no. First question,
Gift of Water.
You don't
First
like
question goes to Will.
you don't like one heat weapon per refresh? You're not a fan?
I mean,
Shirt times 3 is basically free. Let's go.
look, the day I sit there, it's like, oh, thank you for that bark skin. I'm in plate like 90% of the time nowadays, so I appreciate what you're giving me here, buddy. Thank you. I can't even use it. But first question's gonna come from Jay from Darkwater. Comes up, and the question is: strategies from balancing enchants to spells on a spell list, i.e., how to look at a game or team comp and figure out what might be a good balance. I'll take the first crack at this one, just because I think this is an interesting question as a whole, and it isn't just exclusive to enchantments. When it comes to looking to your spell list and seeing what you should be taking, what you shouldn't be taking, It also depends on your kingdom. Some kingdoms allow you to adjust your spell list after you've been drafted. That way, it means that you don't end up with what happened with Sir Higir a few years ago, back when Barbarian wasn't enchantable and he got drafted onto a team. He got drafted onto a team as a candy druid with like 9 barbarians, and he sat there just crying. Well, not crying. He looked very visibly like
Upset.
distraught, I think was the proper term. He was not having a good time, and I don't blame him. I would probably also be rather
That
infuriated
happened to
about
me
that situation.
for my first Kingdom event back after I hadn't played for like 4 or 5 years. I came back, first Kingdom event, Candy Druid. Oh, there's all barbarians on the field. I think I talked to you about it that event. I was like, hey, this is lame.
Yep. So the big thing that I want to kind of hit with this question is that 1, look at what your team looks like. 2, understanding, and the guys have kind of already mentioned it a decent bit throughout the conversation. Notice how much you can get and how many points you can take, and how much of that investment is immediately going to hit just Dispel Town.
How much you're sacrificing.
Yeah, how much are you sacrificing inevitably just to catch the one druid sitting there with naturalized magic, with that twinkle in his eye, ready to just start like popping them
Cough,
off.
cough. Nini the Green, cough, cough.
Yeah, Nini, Elidibus has done it a few times. You've done it a few times.
Yeah.
Like I've seen Lyle do this to people too. Like you just sit here, it's like, oh wow, I'm so great with my giant E-graft imbue weapon, iron skin, and insert whatever nonsense you want. Beam, player thou art dispelled. That
Well, y'all aren't using your bait sufficiently then.
well, it was more of a joke because we've seen it happen where like some overzealous druid players sit there and like, yes, I'm going to throw on every conceivable thing I can now, like use all my util now, and if we win in that fight, then that means the game is over. Not quite. It's understanding, and this kind of leads into our second question, which we'll get into. It's understanding when you want to throw out small stacks, when you have the ability to throw out like a small stack, whether it be like throwing out like a little bark skin here, a little blessing against wounds here, just like small stuff to kind of like see what the opposing team is looking at, and using those small enchants on dangerous players. Yo, that sword knight over there who's been running around playing assassin with no armor on, damn, that guy might be even scarier if he had a bark skin, a tune, and I don't know, whatever you want to give him. The idea here is though is that you are using it as bait, trying to force the opposing team to blow those dispels, so that when you actually have your big stacks coming in right behind them, or a little bit later on in the game, you now have prodded and forced them to burn their utility. So that's my big take on it. It's forcing utility burn. That way, when you want to make entry onto a site, it's with as little effort and resistance as humanly possible, because you force their actual util as is. Sorry. What do you guys think?
Something that you might consider is, Dispel is rechargeable, but will it be recharged? I know a decent number of scouts that are Johnny on the spot with that first Dispel, and then you're like, hey, I need a Dispel, and they're like, sorry, it's not up, and you're like, oh, okay.
Why?
Go recharge that and come back when you're ready to be useful again. And like, how many wizard lists have I had people come to me and they're like, Callahan, what's wrong with my wizard list? I'm like, well, right off the bat, I see you don't have Dispel. What are you doing? Like it's 1 point for so much utility. And with healers Dispel, they have to dump in a bunch of points if they want to have that rechargeable. So there's a lot of Dispel on the field, but not a lot of it is sustainable. So if you're planning on playing Candy Druid, you have to spread out that candy. You don't want to give all of your candy away at the beginning of Halloween. Save some for the late trick-or-treaters, or they're going to be upset at you. I've seen players, like, if I know I'm going to be getting an enchantment, right? I've got enough of a reputation here in the Rising Winds that at the beginning of any given battle game, I will have as many as 3 players offering me enchantments. And I will say, hold that for me. I'll swing by and pick it up when I'm ready for it. And as long as you actually are swinging by and picking it up when you're ready for it and you're getting through those enchantments in a battle game, that's awesome. But if you run up there, especially if you're known for being good at using enchantments, then you're going to get hit with things. So you almost can take a Blessing Against Wounds or a Bark Skin and have the strip on, and then when they run up and you'll have some gung-ho caster that's going to go wreck your day, they're going to run up and they're going to dispel you without knowing anything. There are people on my field who, if I see them, I'll just dispel them because I know they probably have something and it's worth hitting. And, sometimes I had a friend who told me, hey, you dispelled me 3 times in that battle game. I only had enchantments once. And I said, well, cool. Glad that I kept you aware that I was ready to dispel you. So you might be able to avoid some of those dispels by having less dispel going on, or less skin in the game early, and then you come back later with more things, and now you're a bigger threat, but maybe they're not aware of you as that big threat anymore. Whereas if you roll up with the stack right away, they're going to be watching you to see if you have another stack later or another another threat later.
It's something to really keep in mind, and that act of baiting the opposing players out is something that you need to pick up, and it's a skill that I implore every player to kind of like go after and seek out, because it's not. It seems a little unintuitive at first because it feels like you're kind of sandbagging yourself and you're kind of like intentionally like throwing, but in reality it's not. And it's a skill set that regardless of whether you're the guy handing it out or the guy receiving it, it's the understanding is like, okay, hey, I'm going to see what I can get away with. Let's see how little resources I can use to get in and either take a back line or push a front line, and how little I have to use in order to instigate or incite an opposing force's reaction. And the moment you start doing it that way and you're thinking like that, and a lot of this kind of comes from a background that I have playing games like Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, Valorant, StarCraft has something similar, League of Legends and Dota have something similar, but the idea ends up kind of being the same, and the transfer of information works the same. It's or chess also has this as well. It's how little can I give to bait out a better reaction from my opposing team. So, and on to the second question, which I think we all just kind of answered, at least for the most part, was ways to help keep enchantments up in the mid game after perhaps there's been some dispelling or deaths on both teams. Just the act of baiting out and forcing the opposing team to kind of blow a lot of them before big pushes or combined arms pushes, where you're like forcing smaller enchants off to the sides on your flankers and then letting them either wait until the front line engages and then having them come in, or have those guys work as a distraction first before the actual main line engages. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but the act is that we are trying to force and elicit a reaction first and foremost before we go and kind of go gun-ho.
I also think it's important. Sorry.
I'll circle back around.
Okay. I was just going to say, I think it's important to know when, the person who has, when you finally do have that big stack that's coming up, that they're not going out alone, because you're going to get dispelled immediately. Go with your team, first of all, and make sure that people that you're pushing with has somebody to shut down the wizard pretty quickly. Either make sure an archer or wizard or bard, whoever has the break con, or the dispel, I'm sorry, whatever. Make sure you're pushing with somebody that has a break con is what I'm saying. Or make sure you have an archer that is going to be focusing the person that has the dispel, like either it's going to be the healer or the wizard on the opposing team. Make sure that they're shutting down the people that have the dispels before you're pushing, because it really sucks as a candy druid to watch your person that you just stacked get annihilated immediately, get dispelled, and then killed, and it's like, hey buddy, why'd you do that by yourself? We should do this as a team, right?
Could hope.
100%. And the other thing is, if you're not part of a big group, run away. If you watch the best players, at least here in the Rising Winds, we protect our enchantments. We will run away. Like, dispel is half the time a shove, because if you've got a good enchantment, back off to 21 feet, break that contact. A lot of times casters will just move on to the next target right away. Now you can come back in and re-engage. Protect your enchantment because someone else spent their fun giving you that thing. So respect that and protect the enchantment.
And honestly, like here in Neverwinter, it wasn't really prevalent. Like Dispel was not prevalent until maybe like a year or two ago from what I've seen. Because I played almost a decade ago, stopped playing for a few years and came back. Back then when I was playing, no one was running Dispel. I never heard anybody running Dispel. But then within the last like year or two, Cid had been pushing. Cid was like, "Hey, why is nobody running Dispel?" And then suddenly, like, "Oh, hey, yeah, we should probably get some Dispels out there."
If I remember correctly, that conversation went something along the lines of, "Who do I have to strangle to get us to run Dispel? Because it'll probably end up being myself."
Yep.
It was bad. We had no Dispels running around, so you had people running the most ungodly, unholy nonsense on the field, and people were just like, "Yeah, you know what? I got this." At the time I was playing Bard, so I'm just sitting here crying my eyes out, not able to do a damn thing because I didn't have Dispel. Do not let this be an endorsement saying that I want Bard to have Dispel. I vehemently do not want them to have it, but that's a conversation.
I think they should have gotten it, and healers should not have it, in my opinion.
Fair. I do this just because there's a bunch of the concerted Bard Mafia here in Neverwinter would have my hide.
Oh yeah.
Oh, don't
Because
get me started.
they talk about wanting it all the time, and I'm like, guys, please, that class can't have everything. There are other strengths that class should have and can be fixed. Let's not go on to that.
My follow-up question for you guys is, are bards sleeping on sleight of mind out there? Because they certainly are here in the Rising Winds.
Oh
Yes.
my lord, yes.
Yes, they are.
Like, why is no one taking this amazing spell? Like, oh, hey, I'm part of a team and we're gonna do this quest. Like, it's the perfect questing spell. Like, hey, I've got a candy druid on my team. Why are people ignoring this part of Battery Bard? It doesn't make sense to me.
We have a few here that do it. Out of Merkbottom, there's a young lady. She's a non-com normally, but she'll normally stay in the back and give in chance and help out. Her name's Amalga. Incredible. Last Kingdom event, I think I caught only one Dispel from Meat Shield. I caught one Dispel and immediately went over to her. I was like, "My dear, could you please hand me Slide of Mine?" Oh yeah, she handed over, and I didn't catch another Dispel the entire event. She was ready on like legitimately on demon time with how often and without hesitation I could get a Slide of Mine.
I think I remember that match too. I was on the opposite team, and you didn't take any real solid dispels because I dispelled you. I was trying to, but it was like Slide of Mind.
Well, and think about it. Like we already talked a little bit. Well, at least I did, about how we have a bunch of people that have access to dispel, but effectively only have one. And even with charge to max, I still only take one dispel. So if you've got sleight of mind, like, someone's going to have to double tap you to take care of that problem. And at that point, is it worth it? Like, I say yes, use your rechargeable dispel and take off that sleight of mind so that someone else can hit them at least. But it's still such a huge thing to have that tiny little bit of resistance to dispel magic. You know what I mean? Like, it just
absolutely.
slow down.
A lot of these other questions are going to be things that we're going to see off of Druid, so we'll get to Druid now and then come back to them as we go. Just because it's already about 9:19 and I want to kind of keep the recording with a reasonable amount of time, so this isn't like a 3 or 4 hour Wendigoon video.
Boo.
Yeah, so jokes aside, I'm sorry, gentlemen. So the first thing we're going to touch on with Druid in particular is going to be its protective enchants. So these are your usual. It's bark skin, stone skin, iron skin. Am I missing any?
No.
I mean, armor.
It depends.
Yeah, imbue.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if you're really talking about the imbues, sure. But Gift of Earth, I also think should go up there. I think a lot of people sleep on Gift of Earth.
Yep. So, for the audience, these spells all kind of do something similar, and to some varying degree or not, they give a point of magical armor or some level of protection as a means so you don't just get immediately annihilated if you don't have armor on. So whether it be like 1 point with Gift of Earth, or I'm sorry, not Gift of Earth, I'm sorry, Bark Skin, which is now chargeable, which, you know what, that's nice,
Yeah.
cute.
Charge
It's
times
not,
10. Okay.
I mean, look, man, they're seeing Druid here eating good, and they've been eating good for most of the 8,
Yeah.
and they wanted to make sure they didn't like blow the ceiling off the joint.
Druid is
But
arguably the strongest standalone class already.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really
Yeah.
think that they gave Barkskin as a rechargeable to Druid so that Avatar of Nature people would stop whining about having nothing to do after we took away all their other good enchantments. And frankly,
So
Druid just deserves less.
so as the guy who actually made that change, hi, I am the guy.
I
I'm the one who
found
Yeah.
pushed that through as the rules rep, and it was my idea. And the exact reason is exactly that. Barkskin is the smallest, easiest of all the enchantments. It is the best one for that. If they're going to get one, Barkskin is the one that's best for it. And I literally did it because if you are a candy druid, if you are the type of person who just sits there, you're not able to go field, you're not able to really get out there and fight, but you want to do something under the druid candy class, you're like a 15-year-old boy. And that's not really that much fun. So I specifically made sure last time I was a rules rep that that was fixed for players to continue to at least have some sort of lasting effect as a candy druid the entire time.
You could have
Yep.
made it charge times 5, though. I mean,
They
it's not
didn't want it. They would not have. They would not have let that go through.
probably.
That's too easy.
I actually wanted to charge time charge 5. I got the negotiation to 10 and I was happy I got rechargeable at all.
Well, that's fair. It fills an important niche. I just at park charge times 10 is too long.
Mhm.
If you're trying to charge times 10 at a park level, your game's over, right? And at kingdom level, I don't know if Barkskin is effective enough, and so it just ended up being a little extra for those Avatar of Nature druids, and I just can't forgive them for that. So
Yep.
Oh, hello. Sorry about that. My mic sometimes cuts out like that. So one of the interesting things that I kind of have with Barkskin is that Barkskin is a really cool canary in the coal mine spell. So what you do is, and I've seen a few people do this. Nini, when he was teaching me Druid, kind of went through this kind of process where you use Barkskin attune, and then you give him something to kind of look a little scary, as like a scarecrow effect or a canary to kind of force the issue. It's like, all right, cool. Are they going to burn the dispel on the pretty decently competent like martial player I'm sending into the back with a point of magical armor, or I guess hardened magical armor in Gift of Earth's case, and some level of like innate killability? If they don't, then that means I'm pretty much safe because if they're not going to do it for the sword knight doing it, they sure as hell ain't doing it for the halfway decent like melee armored player who, is nowhere near as good. So each of these skills, while some of them seem redundant and they seem a little bit like weaker, there is inherent utility for them. They're there for like you can use them in ways that are a little bit more unorthodox, at least in the case of like tactical economy, that should be more readily like understood.
Oh yeah, no, I am not. I hope it's not misunderstood. Barkskin is literally life saving sometimes, and then being able to charge it is fantastic. I think it's just us complaining that like what did this person and Fina said, 45 seconds is.
I've never played in a game with a
sometimes
15-second respawn. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If they give you, I'm normally the first one to say that touch and go and 15-second respawns are a horrible idea, but That's a whole different conversation.
What happens when you
You
play
get me
a
on that
bigger
soapbox, I'm never
most of the
leaving.
time, brother?
Well, and
But,
I'm not saying that the spell is bad or even unusable. I'm just saying that it has a specific amount of usefulness that lends itself towards specific play styles that I think we would prefer to see less of. This, well, now I'm just beating around the bush. Avatar of Nature, I think, is inarguably one of the strongest archetypes in the game. And
Yeah.
if you have a recharge times 10 like ability like that gives them a point of magic armor after you've taken up their iron skins and their stone, or not their stone forms, their lycanthropies, and they go through all their normal stuff. Instead of having to buy all the garbage enchantments that they used to, now they just take one of those to get that point of magic armor, and now they have a lot more room on their list for things like mend and other verbals that they can use to be really effective. So it created an opportunity, and I don't blame them for exploiting the opportunity. I acknowledge that we needed something rechargeable for candy druids. There's got to be a way that we can have both things. But
so
I think we've derailed the conversation talking about the one spell.
Yeah.
no, I
Do you want
don't
to bring
think
us back on?
I don't think that it's inherently a derail. These are all they're all valid understandings of the game and they're all valid opinions for it. But yeah, I mean, given that we do have a time limit, most of us do work in the morning, and I don't need this recording being comically long for the sake of austerity. Let's continue forward.
Sorry.
Gift of Earth and Bark Skins, similar ideas, except Gift of Earth giving you Harden is interesting. It's not a bad idea. It's very cool. Next one up, Corrosive Mist. This used to be really funny to see people run, but given that I believe, if I remember correctly, Corrosive Mist only blows up sectional points of armor. Or am I incorrect on that?
I
Make
believe
sure.
that's correct, but my tab is loading. Okay, here we go. Yes,
Yeah,
it is a single
it's
hit
armor
location. If it was per life, that'd be awesome. But nah, this is destroy armor is a bad spell. It's just a bad spell, and giving me let's see, 3 of them
Three.
as an enchantment, like, still bad.
And it's long. It's long. It's a long spell. It's a long, like, it's a long incant. Especially for like somebody that I have, like, speech issues in general. So
Well,
it's
wait. All you have to say is, player, the mists of corrosion destroy your armor. It's only
No,
one sentence.
armor
It's not-
location.
but like I say,
yeah,
for someone like
in
me,
that location.
But
yeah.
also, that's an other. Unless you're playing Avatar of Nature, that is something you put on someone else. And who
That's
are you
true.
giving Corrosive Mist to?
Yep.
The bard.
Someone you
Screw it.
want to target. I
Yeah,
don't
just
know.
give it
I would say, like, you're creating a threat on anyone who's going to be like a heavily armored target. I mean, this was something that, like, my team for this last battle game tourney, we were heavily considering taking Corrosive Mist. We ultimately didn't because, I mean, there were a lot of other spells that were kind of more important to what our build was. But I don't know. I think you guys are knocking it too hard.
I
It's
don't think
not as bad as you're making out to be.
I don't think it's bad. I think it's a little bit allocatively inefficient. In terms of some of the spells that you'll see afterward, Corrosive Mist is the kind of thing that you used to see a lot, especially with lighter armored games. So, like, for instance, armor that you normally see like old barbarian players do, especially if they were like right-handed or left-handed, they'll just put one like long piece of armor on, or some level of armor on their main dominant arm, and doing that would kind of like handcuff them a little bit. That was interesting. Sometimes I'll see people use Corrosive Mist to take out leg armor, so that archers can kind of get ahead of the game on that. It's not a useless spell. I do
No,
think
I
though
don't think
that
it's useless.
I think it is inefficient for the points to what you're getting out of it. Which, in fairness, they did the same thing to naturalize magic as well. But we'll get to that one when we get to it. But yeah, I mean, the Mists of Corrosion destroy your blank isn't terrible. I can see like why some folks may not like it, but
I think it's just when you don't know the player's name, in my opinion. saying
Oh, you get to do the
paladin
two.
in X color. Yeah, because I personally, again, as someone who gets nervous on the battlefield already, and I think some other people that are like newer casters also um, tend to have this issue. Like you tend to think a lot about what you're going to say, and then sometimes by the time you get to say it, um, the situation has changed.
I mean, it happens.
Pretty
It's
good
not.
Yeah.
answer to 6-point armor warriors. I'm just saying, like,
No,
Hey.
you're
Look,
right.
you leave my
You're
6
still
points
spending
alone.
a per refresh ability to deal with a per life problem. You'd be
Yeah,
better
yeah.
off just, taking
well, and
all lightning.
Oh yeah, wait a minute. I kind of don't like getting struck by lightning.
it's also much cheaper. I mean, we're talking about like
Second level.
it's 1 second level. I know you can't take more than one, but it's 1 second level spell. It's
It's
pretty cheap. Like I know it's not going to be Call Lightning because Call Lightning, you're talking about what 6th level spell versus a 2nd level per refresh.
All right, well, let's take a look at a level 1 per life then. I mean, if you take Heat Weapon, how many
Mhm.
warriors do you know that carry around one weapon?
I'll
A
use a
lot.
pole. I
I
normally
have
use
to
a pole.
convince people. Yeah, I have to convince people to bring a second weapon.
If I'm playing Wizard, I'm carrying 3 short swords for crying out loud. Why is my warrior carrying 1 polearm? Like,
I
ooh,
don't
here's
have a
your
sword
pole.
frog. I
What are
need
you
a
gonna
sword
do
frog
about
on
it?
me. I need the sword frog just because when I'm wearing my plate, I can't really get around it. Likely, it's probably going to have to be an investment I get later on. So that's one. Two, if I'm ever doing that, I normally do have like a spare weapon running around somewhere that I can just kind of like ask someone to chuck my way if I need it. But yeah, no, I mean that's actually not a bad way to look at it. If per investment, I probably will say, in contrary to you there, Eric, or Rook, then instead of corrosive mist, I would rather take the heat weapons because it's 1 per life, 2 chargeable,
That's fair.
and 3 will normally get them to run away faster than the corrosive mist will. It's not a bad spell. Just one of those things that I'm going to be like kind of apprehensive in taking just because of its investment
It's
to uptime.
it's more like I see it as something cheap to pick up if you're picking I think it's summoner because you get
Yeah,
like double enchants.
Yeah. Summoner.
Summoner trying to counter enemy armor. It's a very niche case, but it's an answer to a problem.
yeah.
Like
I mean, I
It's
don't think it's a bad
probably
idea.
like C or D tier, but
like
you know
with
I really feel
all
like
I can
we're
agree with
spells
out
and
that.
there to counter.
abilities, like with all spells and abilities, there's definitely uses for it. It is a great spell under the right circumstances. It is not so much as a giant hammer or multi-tool. It is more like a scalpel. Thank you. But we have been on that particular ability now for a while, so
yeah, let's move on.
Move on. Sorry.
Next one, probably one of the bigger ones for a druid's kit, and it's a real linchpin unit. I am on once we get into the third, or I'm sorry, we still have poison. I completely forgot about poison being on the druid spell list.
Yes. I
Poison is
think
actually kind of fun. I
I
think
think
poison.
poison's great because okay, hear me out. Avatar of Nature, attuned poison lycanthropy.
Yeah,
Okay? We're crushing shields on a 4th hit on the shield, wounds kill.
I mean,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
it's a per life. It's a set it and forget it. One of those, literally one of those things you could do is a bark skin attune poison, or some other random
Yep.
nonsense.
I'm
You want to give them
I'm
just
a
a.
big fan of the poison for Avatar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, also on Avatar, absolutely. We'll get to Avatar in a bit for the rest of the gang, for the listeners at home. But the fact that you are hearing it as much as you're hearing it now, and we aren't even anywhere near it, you'll understand that this spell is absolutely insane and kind
You
of
could be
works.
you could be better than assassin if you pick a druid. That's
Yeah,
all I'm gonna say. You take
Yeah.
your stone forms, you take your poisons, Avatar nature, you take teleport. I mean,
yep, yep, yep.
oh,
You
and
are
of course
you are
lightning.
dangerous. But yeah, I don't think there's much that needs to be said about it. Poison is just relevantly good util to give out on a per life basis. Uh, the one that I was really, really concerned about bringing up, just because it's one of the ones that most people really, really, really either misunderstand or misattribute is attuned. So attuned, for those who don't know, is, let me pull up the exact wording right here. One moment. So attuned makes it that you can wear an additional enchantment, and attuned doesn't count towards your enchantment limit, and it can't be used with any other similar ability, but it means that you ostensibly get 2 enchants instead of your normal 1 that you would normally be able to wear. So one of the things to keep in mind with this is attuned is your number 1 piece in the Druid's Canary in the Coal Mine setup, is that it lets you throw one of these out. Mind you, you only get 2 if you're not running Summoner. So it is one of those things that you're going to be using, yes, sparingly, but throwing out 1 just to kind of get a feeler out to see what the situation looks like on the battlefield is key. And most casters will see it and they will take the bait because they hear attuned and they know, oh God, what what unfathomable
there's other
situation on
stuff.
this way. Yeah. So that's the big thing I wanted to get across with attuned as an actual spell. It's really important. It has a lot of really good technical utility. It can be used in conjunction with a lot of smaller, like less costly enchants as a means to kind of really accentuate your repertoire as a druid. It lets you really stretch your wings, so to speak. So it's definitely one that I think that a lot of people don't just think about as like, oh yeah, you get 2 enchants. No. A lot more that you could think about in the game economy. I think a lot of people don't think
tactically,
about.
there's a lot more.
Yep. And y'all got any other notes on it?
Well, I mean, the most recent use that I had with Attuned was I was playing Wizard. I took Void Touched. My Druid took Attuned, and I was it Iron Skin? No, it was Lycan, and we threw it on our Anti-Paladin. Anti-Paladin's enchantments are EX, so he's able to give himself Flame Blade EX,
Yep.
Poison EX.
Yep.
We threw Stone Skin on him, and we gave him the Attune, so I could throw Void Touch on him. Again, makes him immune to almost every school of magic, which actually, no, I think it is. Yeah, except for Subdual. And again, shield crushing, armor breaking, and of course with the poisoned wounds kill, it's just
It's
it
a lot.
it leaves room for nothing else to put on him. Yeah, Attuned is really nice.
Yep. Next one up, Bear Strength.
Meh.
Gives shield crushing for free. Well, not for free, but it's a nice spell per refresh. Definitely one of those ones that you can kind of use as your little canary setup because you can use it to mini stack, especially if you're
Sure.
blowing enchant or your attunes. This is one of those scary ones. Yeah, it's not your lycanthropy. It's not going to give you it's not going to give you magic armor. It's not going to give you immunities. But hearing you got shield crushing, especially if you're rock and flow, yeah, that's going to get some ears perked up, and it's one of those things to really, really keep an eye out on.
Okay, but hear me out.
Mhm.
Scout.
Yeah, scout with bear strength is terrifying.
Scout stops you, dispels you, breaks your shield.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, oh, okay. Oh, hey, they have evolution. I'm just gonna give them Gift of Fire. Scout stops you, heats your weapon, dispels you, breaks your shield, leaves you there standing like, what am I gonna do now?
Yep.
Like, huh.
Scout is all right. And I'm letting y'all know now. Scout's getting a little bit of love next episode, and if we have to do a 3rd episode on this, we will, because Scout creates a lot of weird wrinkles in the enchantment economy. But
Yeah.
that's a whole long enough to be its own episode, which it might be. But we'll see. That's insane. Next one up, Gift of Fire,
Hey,
giving people
actually,
heat weapon for free. Oh,
before you go into that, Sid,
wait.
I absolutely plan on us eventually coming through and doing every class specifically. Just, hey, today we're going to talk Druid. Hey, tomorrow we're going to talk Warrior. And that way we can sure to give a real good in-depth analysis of every class, um, of their best and worst points from people who should know those classes better than us. But just to let you know, eventually we will have a whole scout conversation.
Be ready for that. That's going to be a fun one to talk about because Scout creates a lot of fun interactions, especially with a lot of these crazier, like smaller enchantments. They're very good on eco efficiency when it comes on using your enchants on them. So don't sleep on playing Scout. Gift of Fire, giving people heat weapon for free. I don't see it. It's bad. It's not bad. It's fun to use on trapping or trapper like lurker character like players. So your scouts are gonna love this. I've seen people use this on like assassins as a joke. So they have even less like resistance to deal with. I've seen this used on a bunch of other like different classes. It's not the greatest thing in the world. Give it to the barbarian. Oh
If
god.
I'm playing barbarian, I would love nothing better than have a gift of fire. Just I'm not worried about you. You're not playing a caster today? Well, surprise, I'm playing Secret Surprise Caster.
A barbarian just essentially yelling at you to drop your weapon.
I would roll into that so hard. It'd be so great.
So the next ones we're gonna kind of do, we're gonna hit are just the utility ones. Oh god. some of these we're gonna kind of hit these next ones kind of in a line, just because some of them are a little bit easier just to kind of remember and like lump together. So you have regeneration, which is a general util one. Troll's blood, kind of in the same boat. Let me see what else is in there. Stone skin, I think, is one of those that I think most people could talk about. At being at third level, it's just generally good to have, but falls within the same like area of like, okay, yeah, 1 point of magical or 2 points magical armor, as affected per ancestral. Great. It's at a great rate. You get 2 max, and then with summoner you get 4.
Explain
Incredible
ancestral armor though, because a lot of people tend to not remember that.
Yeah, it's just because we are getting towards the end of the episode, so
okay.
I kind of want
to.
I want to hit. No, we are going to hit ancestral, but it's one of those things that I wanted to hit some of the more the really important ones before we might have to sign off. And if we have to do a second episode on Druid, or at least cut and hit some Druid parts later on, we will. But it's one of those things I kind of wanted to make sure we got the really, really crazy ones out.
Okay, sorry.
So ancestral, nothing to be sorry about. So the big thing to keep in mind with ancestral armor is that if it's either struck by a magic ball, a projectile weapon, or melee weapon, it would end up, or it either ignores it, you don't take the wound, and it removes the strip instead. So if, for instance, I catch a lightning ball, or I catch anything that's not fear, and certain other ones, I just lose the point of armor, and I'm good. I don't get stunned, or not stunned, I don't get stopped or frozen, etc., etc., etc. Though you still have the same thing you have to worry about with phase, where phase will go straight through it. And that's the same thing with all the other forms of magical armor. So there's a very big distinction that you need to keep in mind as a druid between giving something like bark skin or gift of earth to stone skin. Gift of earth and bark skin are nice little pieces of utility, and they're going to give a little bit of protection, but it's not going to protect you from magic and other things like stone skin will, along with giving you the extra point. The other ones I want to kind of hit before that is the other kind of weird enchants. So that'll be your lycanthropy, your troll's blood, poison glands, etc. And we're going to kind of lump those all together, generally because they tend to be very circumstantial as to when one comes in and when the other ones don't. So, like for instance, poison glands isn't always as used as like troll's blood is, and troll's blood isn't as used as lycan, as it tends to be the case, just because one, or they're at a higher level, or two, their utility is sometimes diminished depending on what the field timing is, whether it be respawn times being too long to make something like troll's blood worth it. The field might be a little bit too close, so the heal that you get from troll's blood may not be as useful. So it's one of those things to keep in mind and to read the field before you start using some of these, because they sometimes have a little bit of weird eccentricities to them. But let's hit the real big ones just before we go any further. Flame Blade. Generally, I think it's probably the strongest, if not one of the strongest abilities in the druid's like repertoire, whether it's given to themselves or given to others. Having shield crushing armor breaking is generally good. I don't think that there is any conversation that most people would have with it. But what do you guys think?
I think it's overhyped.
Really?
Yeah.
Same.
I think wounds kill is a lot more valuable than shield crushing. I mean, when I first started, I had a friend who, he really wanted to make a shield crushing great weapon. And unfortunately, he no longer plays the game. But he really wanted to commit to making a shield crushing weapon, and he finally made his great sword that had enough padding and it had the shield crushing, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm super excited about it." And then once he started using it, all he would do is aim for people's shields and get killed because he wasn't actually swinging for their for their body. I mean, having a pole that has shield crushing is great. Going Florentine, I mean, it all in theory sounds good, but I think it encourages a play style that it's very easy to get tunnel visioned on, and you start missing out on the opportunity to, you know, do the point of the game, which is to actually kill people and not just hit their shields.
And I think now with the great sword advent, I guess, Flameblade almost becomes a little, like you said, it's almost obsolete,
It is
in my opinion.
it is very
I
overhyped. There is
agree with
so
that.
much
Yeah,
scab out there now. Almost
and
everybody can have a scab weapon, and so you have the other half, which is immune to flame. And uh, out of the immunities, it's great, but
yeah,
I
Well,
don't
and
really
think
need the
about
enchantment just for that.
it doesn't get around Imbue Shield, it doesn't get around Harden.
yeah.
So with how easy it is to have scab these days, everybody is on the imbuing the shields, hardening the shields. Like the shields are protected right now. So Flameblade, I think, is overhyped because it's the meta isn't favorable to it right now.
Yeah,
I-
definitely.
The reason
It
why I
used to
kind of
be.
Huh? I mean, I still think it has its uses. I don't. So, as someone who uses it mostly on anti-paladin, where it's a lot greedier, I'm not aiming for shields. I'm aiming to take your armor out, make my other guy's job a lot easier. If I'm able to like pressure you and force you to have to play back, especially on classes that may not have the armor capabilities to punch up. So, like for instance, barbarian folds to it because barbarian's only capped at 3. Uh, Paladin, anti-paladin, you get 2 swings. But then again, I understand the objection properly, given how much scab is running around in the game right now, that it kind of makes it feel a little obsolete. I still feel like, given the circumstances and the amount of permutations with which you can use Flameblade, as well as its pretty relevant immunity, it makes it still relevant, if not not necessarily a must take. If I'll correct myself on
Well,
that, if anything.
I think,
Uh,
like Hugel
an
said. Oh, sorry.
anti-paladin take yeah, sorry, just quick point. I
Go
think
ahead.
an
Yeah, go ahead.
anti-paladin taking it versus a druid giving it to you are two different things.
That's
Yes.
true.
An anti-paladin, that's your innate ability, right? You
Mm.
still have other things that you take with you, right? The flame blade like is such a big boon that for a martial class I think is great. I'm not trying to say that shield crushing is necessarily bad as much as is it worth investing and is it worth not taking something else. Lycanthropy having shield crushing is amazing because you get 2 points magic armor and immune to command. Like you're kind of rounding out your build, and you're making a martial class a lot more valuable, whereas Flameblade is only shield crushing, armor breaking, and immune to flame on
Yep,
your weapons.
fair enough.
And it's
So
expensive. It's 2 points.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, 2 points and your max is at 2. Fair. So let's hit the kind of the big elephant in the room for Druid, especially Golem.
Yep.
So Golem, for those of you guys who don't know, and a lot of people tend to forget this, Golem is immune to death. They're cursed. They can be healed via mend, and they use their Druid as an alternative spawn point, so long as the Druid is alive. That means that they must count their respawn at the Druid rather than just coming back, as like most people assume how like Undead Minion used to work and does
Mhm.
work. So the other thing is that Their non-magical armor worn is affected as per imbue armor. All enchantments worn by the golem, including golem, are persistent. You can only have one golem. And greater mending and word of mending, so Spadoinkle, do not work to heal wounds. So,
yeah, I mean, I think as far as golem, it's so valuable that like to even try to put it on a tier list just wouldn't make sense for me.
oh, it's a linchpin.
It's
Yeah,
almost
it's like
it's almost its own class.
yeah, it's something that is almost a must-have for a candy druid because that's your answer to not having persistent. Since you don't have persistent, you have one person that's going to be like you give them golem, you give them essence graft, and then you put whatever else you need to on them. Yeah, it's too
Iron skin
valuable
and
to
imbue
not take.
weapon.
Yep, exactly.
Next one up is Lycan. We've already talked to death about Lycan.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I'm not gonna lie. Lycanthropy is probably my favorite enchantment.
Yep,
It's really good. You can't go wrong with the Lycan. I mean, the only
Lycan on.
I'm so mad that they rejected my proposed incant for it, but whatever.
What was the proposition you gave?
Oh, so it used to be that copyrighted song that we're not going to sing, but when they came out with it, and they're like, "Hey, everybody, what should we make the lycanthropy enchant be?" My proposal was, "Who's a good boy?" And then
I would happily take that in this game. You know what? I'm gonna make a magic item where that's the actual incant. Screw it, we're doing it.
Fuck yeah, yes,
that's hilarious,
delightfully fun, and everyone was like, "No, that's weird." I'm like, "Yeah, well, so are you."
Yeah, I mean, we're literally getting dressed up like knights and peasants and hitting each other with foam sticks. And the game is weird enough as is. Let's double down on it.
Yeah, lean into it.
Jeez.
Also,
down,
way
boy.
funnier. Just imagine with me for a moment the super try-hard avatar of nature guy in the corner. Who's a good boy? I'm a good boy. Who's a good boy? I'm a good boy. Who's a good boy? I'm a good boy. Lycanthropy, and then he starts running at you.
Just hyping themselves up.
Oh, that's perfect.
I don't know if I could even read that without like just laughing myself onto the ground, and I'd be pissing myself.
It would be the best thing ever. I also think,
my Lord.
and this is where we get really unhinged. They should have to provide those little animal ears, like little dog ears. They have to wear that while they're enchanted with lycanthropy.
That would be hilarious. And then all the monsters.
Every other enchant needs spell strips, but your strips are puppy ears.
Puppy ears.
Bro, I would fucking lose it. God on a cross. That would be.
I would even be willing to
comes
allow
with its
them
own
to
dog
have
collar.
No.
Okay,
hear me
this
out.
is going a bit far, guys.
We give them a third point of magic armor, but they have to wear the collar and the tail as well.
Oh my Lord, this is gonna be it's a COC waiting to happen.
Oh Jesus.
I kind of like that white belt I got, but I guess I'm gonna have to give it up now. Thanks, guys.
I'm already waiting.
You're giving up your belt for a collar. That's insane.
Yeah, I'm waiting there. Eli Sinner's like,
no,
so
dude,
we were
they're
going
gonna
to
strip
night
it
shoe.
after this.
Yeah. we were going to night shoe, but then you were talking about possibly doing that with lycanthropy, and we just can't do that in good conscience.
If there's anyone that can take responsibility for you not getting knighted, I was so glad it was me.
You bastards. Oh my Lord, you're killing me. All right. One of the bigger ones also to keep in mind with Druid is Essence Craft. So things to keep in mind with Essence Craft, let's kind of break it down just because it is a bit of a mouthful. The bearer may wear up to 3 additional enchants. Essence Craft does not count towards your enchantment limit, but you can only wear enchants from the person who gave you Essence Craft. It cannot be used in conjunction with any other abilities. So that means like Scout or any other ability that would give it to you, only Essence Craft works. So, Essence Craft. This is in conjunction with Golem, your monster maker, your your means of pushing the front line, your ways of kind of forcing the issue.
Yeah.
We are not using, given that these are 1 per 1, you don't have a max of them, but these things are going to eat through your points a lot. You're going to be real hard pressed to be using these sparingly, and they should be used very sparingly, because like seeing Essence Craft, or the moment you hear Essence Craft on the battlefield, that is the first guy I'm dispelling, not even a question. Because that's a heavy investment, maybe next to golems.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. Golems,
Probably.
troll bloods.
Yeah,
Wait,
Troll's
does
Blood.
troll blood Kiva?
Troll's Blood is a different. Troll's Blood, we'll get to that one, but that one has its own interesting little issues to it, and like eccentricities that make it real dangerous to play against.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. But
Yeah, enchanted player does not die as normal. When the player would otherwise die, they instead ignore the triggering effect as though it had not occurred, remove a strip, and become frozen for 30. And, they get the effects of regeneration.
which the thing with Troll's Blood and regeneration to kind of make a note of is you do have to respect the cannot heal within an X amount of distance from an enemy player. So if it's a tight quarters fight, Troll's Blood may not be for you. It's not Phoenix Tears. It doesn't do the same thing as Phoenix Tears does. It has a lot of other weird nonsense to deal with, but it is a very fun spell to use. So just one of those things to kind of keep in mind. And you can kind of use this as a mini stack as well. You go like Troll's Blood, Attune, I don't know, throw a poison on them, or throw the Flame Blade if you're so inclined. It's a good way to not have to blow your Essence Crafts or your golems on a target. Now, mind you, it's a 5th level spell, so it's a little bit pricey. But it's something that you can use to kind of bait out interaction. Especially
I
if
would
it's a
rather give
dedicated-
somebody a gift of water, to be honest.
Troll's
I
Blood
mean,
is sort of bad because, hear me out. You know who loves seeing an enemy player with Troll's Blood?
Wizard.
Every
Wizards
No.
wizard ever.
oh yeah,
Because,
true, because they just
like,
shatter them
oh, you're
immediately.
dead?
Adder you.
Let me just walk over there, dispel
Oh.
you, because you can dispel a frozen player, and then shatter you. Problem
Yep.
solved.
Yep. Touch, range,
Alright.
shatter, and
Hyperbole, okay. Evoker wizards gain nothing from that.
That's fair.
But I hear what you're saying. Yeah. The shatter is huge.
the evoker's sitting there like, ooh, when you come out of there, ooh, you're
Ooh.
catching the spear.
Ooh, when you thaw out.
I argue that evokers aren't playing the game seriously anyway, so
I mean, I like.
I don't
watching
know,
both of them.
bro. I I was pretty serious when I had my tactical vest.
You and everybody else sitting there concerned looking at that tactical vest, myself
Yeah.
included.
Oh
love
yeah,
that
but
thing.
everyone
I
who
adore
plays
that thing, though.
evoker successfully also can do the other archetypes more successfully.
That's
I mean,
fair.
there's a few.
Unless you have a mush mouth.
Yeah, there's a few guys who I've seen over the years who've like I've seen them play evoker extremely well, and then just battle mage just doesn't click in their head. I don't understand what the hell it was. I don't understand what like was kind of the mental block on it, but it was just the way that they did it. But it's different conversation for a different situation. But
That's fair.
Guys,
But-
I gotta jump. It's been a pleasure chatting with you all. Have fun with the rest of the podcast. Peace.
thank you
You as
guys.
well, brother.
Thank you
Take
for
it easy.
be safe. Have a good one. All right. So last few, let's kind of rush to the finish on this.
Yeah.
Last ones will be naturalized magic.
Beautiful.
Similar kind of
Beautiful.
situation. Yeah, great spell. It's a really cool like silver bullet that a lot of people will do inside of a stack. They'll wait, or inside of a brick of like a team. They'll wait for all those crazy enchants to come out. They'll wait for like a good solidified amount of them to be out on the field, and then just bam! I shall restore the balance. Blank, you are dispelled. Blank, you are dispelled. Blank, you are dispelled. Real fun, real kooky. Kind of requires a little bit more of a closed field in order to use it to its fullest potential. But I love naturalized magic. IMO. What do you two
So,
think?
honestly, naturalized magic is good. I don't think you can make an argument against that. The question I have for you is, are you putting on the strips?
Yeah,
Absolutely. You better.
I had a player once come up to me on a Kingdom field. I was doing my Gift of Air wizard thing, and they're like, "Thou art dispelled," and I'm like, "Well,
Where's
hold
your
on,
strips?
where's your strips?" And they got real frosty with me because they didn't have any strips. I'm like, "Well, I'm not taking that because how was I to know you had this enchantment up if you don't have the strips and you're not removing a strip?" Anyway, it devolved into a whole argument, but you end up with this little problem of like, hey, if you're going to use naturalized magic, you better have the strips to back it up. And
That should go without saying for any enchantment though. Like I feel like that's ridiculous to not have the strips on. It completely defeats the purpose of the spirit of the game.
Yep. Same thing happens with Corrosive Mist, Battlefield Triage, Phoenix Tears. You should
Mass
have them
healing.
on Mass Healing because you
Yep.
need to know how many of those things are you about to blow, and how do I know you have them? It happens.
Exactly.
It's one of those
Yeah.
things that you're gonna have to keep in mind on. But yeah, I mean, naturalized magic is good. Kind of requires a little. It's very circumstantial with when you get the max utility out of it. But damn, is that bad boy good when you need it?
Yeah,
So
don't pop it immediately. Don't at the beginning of a game. Don't
Oh,
pop naturalized magic and run out onto the field.
you dispel the guy with naturalized magic on at the beginning
Yeah.
of the game.
Yeah.
It's like,
Thou
oh,
art you naturalize magic. The guy using naturalized magic. Like I got
turnabout is
just sitting
fair
there.
play. Let's get him.
So last two, imbue weapon. Not much can be said. Giving wounds
Yeah.
kill.
Wounds kill to somebody with a pole. Always a good idea.
Scary
Oh,
as
so
hell.
good.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
That's why it's a must have on the golem sack.
Yep. Definitely a
You know.
really. You normally are either giving them the golem. So this is the thing for those of you who are like aspiring druid players. The one thing that you want to do when you're making your stacks is to kind of like think of it this way. You want a form of protection or evasion. So that's your utility spells that are making it harder for you to kill them. So that's your Troll's Blood, that's your Iron Skin, Stone Skin, uh, Flame Blade to a lesser extent. That one kind of does double duty. Or Gift of Earth, etc. You want the form of protection, a form of utility, whether that be your Attuned, your E-Graft, your Golem, and then you want a form of offense. Flame Blade is normally the end-all be-all answer. If I need to use this, and this is my big stack that I need to be running, I am absolutely putting Imbue Weapon on that guy. It's because this is going to be this is my tank, so to speak, if we're equating it to like what mundane militaries are using. I want to make sure that this person is as protected as possible. I want to make sure that they're getting to their objective with as little issues as humanly possible. And Imbue Weapon is the number one way to get into a room and scare the absolute bejesus out of everyone else in there who's not immune to death. That's the other thing to keep in mind, that with recent changes, Imbue Weapon is Death School.
Mm-hmm.
So your paladins are going to be sitting there like, okay, cool dog, no worries. That doesn't work on me. Also won't work on other golems because they're also cursed.
They're also immune to death.
Void touched characters also kind of a relevant issue now because Void touch is so prominent. It ought to be more prominent, but yeah.
You and that goddamn void touch.
I love that damn spell.
Void Touch is so good. Like
I
the
know.
fact that paladins are getting it now for free seems insane to me.
Oh, I don't even play Corruptor because I'm horrible with Sword and Board. I just play I play Archetypeless, and I just beg people for Void Touch Persistent because
I can confirm that man runs around fields asking for void touch every single event I've played with him recently.
Yeah,
anybody got a void touch for me?
Void touch for the poor.
Some real peasant energy going on over there.
Absolutely. I'm running around there in either Brigandine, Plate, or whatever else I could get my hands on, begging for a means for me not to get absolutely clowned on by the casters. But yeah, no, it's to kind of wrap that up. Imbue Weapon, incredible spell, great spell. Nobody's going to tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Last one, Snaring Vines. I haven't seen this spell cast since it's changed from grasping tentacles.
Yeah.
It has been a very, very hot minute since I've seen it, just because it's command school and
Yeah.
there's so much immunity running around to it. It is. I don't think it's worth a 6th level spell,
No, not at all.
and only at
You
3
could
red.
make this a first level spell and it still wouldn't see play.
True. It is unfortunate to see how the mighty have
No,
fallen.
I think I'd take it. At first level, I'd definitely take it. Especially if I've got like a wizard running what
Drag
is that?
below.
Yeah, drag below running with me. That's fun. But again, it is situational. You have to be just very aware of people that are immune to command, which is going to be a lot of people. But I think it is fun, and that's the same thing with like hold person like on assassin. Like what assassin gets, what is the
Yeah,
hold person.
they get hold
And it's
person.
just like it's unfortunate that there's so many so many things that are immune to command. But when
So-
you find that person that isn't, I mean,
Let's
Yeah,
take the last.
then you're just fighting with the bard to command them for things, though.
Yeah. I mean, Bard is just kind of sitting there like, I mean, I've already been struggling for the past like year and a half. Welcome to the club, I guess, and you're paying a 6th level spell slot for it.
right.
So, with all those aside, let's get through the last of the questions. We'll say our farewells and call this episode Kibosh. So, question from Sir Mishka. What is the best way to... Yeah, I love that guy. I got to meet him for the first time last weekend, and that dude is an absolute G. That guy is
Fantastic
wonderful.
person.
Yep. What is the best way to counter a candy druid?
Wizard with dispel.
A wizard.
Wizard with dispel, healer with dispel, but to really, really kind of make that answer a little bit more, I guess, long-winded. It's understanding when they're blowing. They're like kind of like getting the hard read on when they're blowing their essence crafts, when they're blowing their golems, when it's a bait is the big thing, and it's being able to realize the timings. Like, okay, hey, how long do they have left to score this this objective? How long do we have before the game is over? Well, I haven't seen him blow his second golem or an essence craft, so it stands to reason maybe I might want to keep that sever spirit or that dispel on the ready just in case. But it's one of those things that's a lot of battlefield awareness that you need to be like kind of flexing and like thinking about not only the death timers that an opposing team might have, your own death timers for the actual game mode itself, being able to kind of like balance all of those juggling balls all at the same time. But yeah, that's the best way I would normally say to deal with Candy Druid. It's to kind of like look at the economy, see what they're blowing, see when they're using it, and
Keeping
kind
them
of
away
like
from their team.
Yeah, also keeping them and their monstrosities away from your team.
Yep.
Also a
like
good way to do it.
Keeping the respawns staggered.
Yep, absolutely. Staggering respawns for a
Because
Candy Druid.
Candy Druid is going to be trying to do, complete their stacks, in spawn most of the time. So,
Well, and I think something to remember as well is enchantments only make you more of what you already were. If you are really good at stick and you get an enchantment, that doesn't make you better at stick. It just gives you more of the abilities that you already had. So if you're worried about someone giving out a lot of candy, look at their teammates. How would you already counter those players? That's how you're going to counter the Candy Druid, because the Candy Druid doesn't go out and directly put swords on butts. They're out there to buff their team, make the team more of what they already were. And if you can counter the team without the Candy Druid, then you can counter the team. And countering the team stops the Candy Druid. So
that's a very good point.
Another one from Sharmishka. We're going to take two of his real quick, and then we're going to jump back over to Jay. How do you handle playing a class with such powerful enchants like Druid on a smaller field without turning it into a stomp fest? That is a matter of your judiciousness as a player. One of the things that I will tend to do, and I can only speak about this for myself only, is that I will not inherently try to play too hard on smaller fields, it's there to just kind of relax and enjoy myself. I'm not going to go around throwing like insane e-graft and golem stacks at people. This is more to teach the next generation. But I think that's more of a matter of judiciousness by the caster. And unfortunately, I think that discipline is not something that we kind of talk about in the casting community a lot. I think we kind of should. Cast responsibly. We're here to make sure that everybody kind of has a good time and keep the game close. And it feels like sometimes and you guys have all seen them, I've been on the receiving end of them, you've been on the receiving end of them, where a caster is just there to cyberbully. Or I guess bully. In this case, they're just there to like hit you with that ice ball. They're maxing and waiting on that ice ball to wear out just to hit you with another one. Like it's a whole. I think there's a whole conversation to be had on ethical casting, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think, and coming from Mishka, that's interesting because he and I have discussed this before. Like when we're playing at Sunset Hollow, we only have roughly 7 to 8, maybe 10 people come out on a bigger day. So he and I tend to be like, hey, we're gonna max the caster levels at 4, max it at 5 or something like that, just so that we don't completely roll the whole field.
Yep.
There's also something to be said for occasionally rolling the whole field.
Right. Just reminding people of what I can do.
Well, not even that. Like, so personal story. I'm in the middle of 2 parks. Okay. So if I want to go to either of my 2 parks, it's about an hour and 10 minutes either direction, north or south. And my Saturday park is a significantly less of a skill level than my Sunday park. And I don't say that to be mean. Just the average player at my Sunday park is higher average than my Saturday park. And a bunch of people at my Saturday park do things and think like, not to sound overly braggadocious, but there are people who think like they're pretty good and they're getting big fish in small pond syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, you gotta be like, hey, you're not the end all be all. You should remember that there are other things outside of our local park meta. And so if you're playing Druid and you're never sending out those big stacks and no one's bothering to take Dispel, like,
teach them.
Maybe it's time to, you definitely don't do it every game, but pick a game and be like, all right, I'm gonna soft ruin this game, and hopefully people will think like, oh, that's what you're talking, and you can kind of give yourself some credibility there and say like, hey, this is a thing that you should probably be aware of and be considering like how you're going to deal with that. Don't kill your park, because you don't want to kill your park, but also, I'll give
like
you
I said, remind them what is possible. I think that's kind of what I mean, is like reminding them, hey, this is something that you got to remember.
And you can do that with any class. If you roll up, I've been teaching my kids how to play, and they, my kids are 6 and 7 years old, and we play in the front yard pretty much every day after work. And when we start playing and we sit down and we're like, all right, we're going to play this game, my first thought is, okay, what can I throw at them to make them better battle gamers in the long term? So recently, I've been playing Bard because my eldest is playing a lot of Wizard. So how does a Wizard deal with Song of Interference? Teaching him Dispel, I taught him Dispel super early, and he understands like enchantments are dispellable. How do I get him to the point where he's starting to dispel important songs that are going on? And how do you work around that? Because they have time to innate that song and bring it back up. How do you burn through these resources? What are you doing? So not just your local park, because the better your local park is, the better you're also going to be.
Yep. On a last note to this, actually, a member of Rising Winds actually kind of taught me this lesson last year. I was speaking to Sir Ash Palantir about it. And it was the context of the conversation was a little bit different. And it was more talking about like the nature of, hey, you've got your Battle Master now. What are you going to do with it? I was like, oh, how do you kind of like feel like you got to prove it? It's like you said a few things when we were talking about the idea of like having you don't have to always play like hard. It was that you play to let people or to remind people every now and again to put the fear of God in them, but that's not something you always have to do. You can kind
Right.
of you kind of
Exactly.
like you let them learn. So this is what like having and teaching how to deal with golem stacks at a park should be. Like, hey, take this spell because you're not going to get this level of charity at Kingdom.
Yep.
People there are playing to get their paper. They're playing there to show off that they are, Neverwinter Rising Winds is next like upcoming battle master, why they should be a battle knight, etc., etc. But that's the thing that we should be talking about, at least like as a casting community, is like when we're learning to play these classes and we're learning to teach our parks to get better, it's showing them by example. Give them a reason to fear you, but don't kill your park. But next question from Sarmishka. What are your favorite underutilized enchantments?
I think I had mentioned it earlier. I think Gift of Earth and Gift of Water are both underutilized, and I think they're both pretty good. A point of magic armor and harden is pretty cool, and then a point of magic armor and an unlimited self heal that doesn't have an enemy range parameter. I think that's pretty cool.
Not about
I still love Contagion. Contagion's good.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for venomous glands, but that's just me. I love venomous glands. I never see it often enough, but I'm also a big sucker now. The more I play it now, because I've been getting into playing like defensive roles, Phoenix Tears is also, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's underutilized. Maybe in Neverwinter because it's too damn hot.
Yeah.
It is comically hot here, so people wearing armor is rare for long extended periods of time. Jay from Darkwater asks, what are your tips on identifying ideal targets for enchantments?
Skill level.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It's real simple on this one. If I have two players and I am focused on winning this game, player A is a warlord, equivalent to Sir Balisk, who is a warlord, and is just
Man, it's a
very
sword
quick.
knight. He's scarier.
Yeah, he is the
He
epitome of the
floats.
sword knight. He floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee, and you didn't even know he stung you because he's already on the third person past you. He's the guy that
Yep.
goes "Da-da-da-da-da-da" as he walks past, and then everybody starts to realize tick, 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 all the hits that are coming behind him. That is this man. And then I have day one player, and we're focused on winning this. Day one player is going to get Barkskin.
Yep.
That's all he will ever have. Balisk, Golem stack.
Yep. Give him
Yeah.
the golem back. Let him figure it out. They're gonna have to deal with it. Vel,
Can I offer you a slightly different thought?
fire away.
So this is kind of a weird move. Look for your most medium player. Because yeah, you're gonna have sword knights, and yeah, you're gonna have day one noobs, but a lot of teams forget about your medium player. And if you have, on a team, ideally you're gonna have balance on your teams, right?
Yeah.
So if I have my number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 player, and they have their number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 player, well, if our number one players cancel each other out, great, that's fine. Good work. If our number 2 players cancel each other out, great, that's fine, good work. If you get all the way down to your number 4 and 5 player and they're canceling each other out, well, if you give a buff to your 2, 3, and 4 player, and you skip your top player and your bottom player, your 2, 3, and 4 player are now also going to be besting their 2, 3, and 4 player, and your 2, 3 player might be able to come up and stand a chance against their number 1 player.
So
So
I was gonna say I absolutely agree with this. Actually, that is a great way to do it.
Yeah, that is actually a very good point.
If we're
Because
build
as
the
someone
middle
who
out. Like, absolutely slap Barkskin on that noob, slap Barkskin on that sword knight, slap the golem stack on player number 3 dead in the middle, and now that player that's dead in the middle who is winning 50% of his fights, if you bump that player to 60% of his fights, suddenly you have almost a sword knight, because even the best players, I play a lot of Magic the Gathering because it's a great card game, but even the best players in Magic only have a 55-65% win rate. And it's just how often they're playing the game, getting those tiny micro advantages. And so if you give a player that has a micro advantage over another player, yeah, maybe they lose that enchantment and maybe they break, but you're breaking symmetry on the teams in a way that's important. And the Warlord doesn't need imbue weapon.
Yeah, he's already going to do it regardless. But
yeah, exactly. He's
now,
already making people more of what
out
they
on
already
this one,
are.
though.
There is only
So-
one person that only one way that I would actually say we should go against that, because he is right. That is the best way when you have more than like two. But if you have your 4 or 5 players on your team and there's one person you've worked with, if you
Yeah.
got like, if you're a knight and you've got your squire, if you've got your squire and or that's your knight that's on the field with you, the guy that the best, whether they're the best fighter or not, or the worst fighter or not, I'm gonna put my shit on the guy I trust to handle it the most. So
Mhm.
that might not be the Sir Balisk. That might be the day one player, but that's because I've worked with them ahead of time. They might be day one to the game officially, but I've worked with them. That might
Yeah.
be, for me personally, me throwing it on Ezuron over Balisk,
Mhm.
over Balisk, Goose, and Bolt, other Sword Knights or equivalent thereof. Still going to him over them because I know out of the 4 of them, he's the one that I've got the best relationship with. I can trust and work with him the easiest.
Yep. And there's also
I was
something
gonna
to be
say
said
that
agree
about
with that.
using
That's a good point.
your sword knights as their canary. That's one of those things that I was talking about earlier. It's an enchant all on its own. The moment they see a white belt, regardless if it's white or blue or white and gray, the bed is proverbially shot. And it's
That's
one of
true.
those things. Yeah, it is one of those things that you can use these guys because Chop and Ballast don't need help to kill people. They just need the means to stop the finger wagglers from killing them or to stop them. The moment that you can accomplish that with as little interaction as possible, with as little investment as possible, you've made your job or your team's job easier. Now the opposing team is going to be dealing with the Sword Knight, the Warlord, Battle Knight, etc., etc. But now that 2-3 men in your lineup now is going to be a whole lot more dangerous because that guy's running around with Essence Craft, Imbue Weapon, and God knows what else. That's the cool thing to look at with this topic. It's that yes, it's skill level, yes, it's like understanding and reading the battlefield, but you can be tricksy, you can be absolutely diabolical with this, and it's the same way that your opponent also needs to be thinking about it. Am I walking into a bait right now? Am I going to bait blowing my naturalized magic just because I see a sword knight using a bunch of, or like rocking a bunch of enchants? Maybe this is a bait in order to get me to use it. Maybe this is some sort of ploy because the actual push is coming afterward. Like it's one of those things that when you start getting more acquainted with battlefield tempo, that you're going to need to learn this because especially against Druid and playing Druid, you need to be able to control that tempo yourself because Druid is one of those classes, and I think this will probably be the big final note for the episode. Druid is a class with so much agency that it is almost comical.
Yeah.
They will force the entire field to bend to what they're doing, and they will force everyone to react, or you will lose. It's not even a question. So, as a person having to deal with multiple Paragon Druids, whether they be Candyman, Avatar of Nature, Candy with the Bow, Bardcaster, whatever you want to call it, whatever they're rocking that day.
Lawn chair
It's
druid.
about any of them, and whatever the hell they're doing. The thing you want to keep in mind is that, and Wizard also kind of falls into this as well, but they're a little bit different in this conversation. It's that learning and reacting is one thing. Being able to read what that druid is going to do and know what the game mode is, know what the respawn time is, knowing how to keep that opposing druid in check because you're staggering the respawns and forcing them to have to play to your situation and react to you. That's how you actually counter druid. It's forcing them to play reactive than proactive and constantly keeping them on their toes. Force them to have to react to you. Force them to have to kind of play around you reading them. Now, mind you, that takes a lot of work. It is not easy to do, and it is one of those things that it expects a lot of you mentally. But if you can do it, I promise you, you will be one step closer and a very far step away from going and getting your Battle Master, because that is important. Like, that level of battlefield tempo and understanding tempo and controlling it is universally applicable to every class in the game. There is not a single class in this game, even peasant and monster included, that use this mechanic. So even if you're not playing, even if you're injured, if you're non-com, you can learn this. Watch games. Watch how people react. Watch how read up on game modes. Watch other games. Like militia games like Thaliandor do this. Was it Belagarth has this? Like, tempo is universal and it exists in all things. You can see it in hockey, you can see it in football, you can see it in baseball, you can see it in esports. Learn it. Learn how to control tempo, learn how to read tempo. Everything else comes secondary from there. So, with that in mind, we've been at this for almost 2 hours, and I know I kind of elucidated a lot. So we'll give our guests the final messages before we send everyone off. Ezuron, thank you for being on the show. If you have any final notes to give,
Thank you.
fire away.
I think just like a final note about just knowing who to enchant. I think Lyle's point was good. People you trust, people you fought with before. But also don't skimp out on the newer people. You want them to have fun too. You want them to experience the game, and they're not going to learn if you don't teach them. So I think that's important.
Yep. Right, Kalahan.
I
Parting
agree
shots.
with almost everything that we've said tonight. I feel like enchanting is important. Wizard enchantments all sort of suck. Druid enchantments are all sort of great.
Yep, I agree.
Lyle, you got any final parting shots?
No, I think we're pretty good. We've hit everything that I wanted to. We went a little over a couple items, but that's okay. And I think everybody's gotten a real good grasp of enchantments, what they can do, and a better look at both the wizard and the druid specifically. As I stated earlier, I will eventually have a full lesson or whatever you want to call these, round table discussion, a war table discussion of what each class can do, and we'll go up much more in depth of different combos and what can be found and ways to counter it as well. And other than that, I think we did everything right today.
I think everyone did a great
And I
job.
also appreciate you guys inviting me to this. This is Lyle and Cid. You guys are both people I look up to extremely in this game. So I appreciate you taking time to listen to what I have to say.
I mean, hey, you're prominent in the community, you do good work, and you're good people. That's honestly, that's kind of the big thing that comes into it. Like,
Appreciate
taking
it.
that next step is a matter of character. Skill comes, but character is something that you're kind of born with.
Appreciate it.
On a last note, we'll be going over what next episode is going to be. Next episode is going to be focusing on healer and bard. So it's going to be a fun time. We'll hopefully try to make it a little bit more short-winded, just because druid is kind of a hard class to talk about. If there's anything we missed, we'll do a cleanup step for it at the beginning of the episode next week or in 2 weeks. That way we can kind of miss anything that we may not have talked about. And if there's any questions that come after, we can go at it from there. So without further ado, I have been Battlemaster Cid.
I'm
And
Sir Lyle.
thank you all for coming out here to the war table. Stay hungry, keep reading, walk tall, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.